Today, yes, today I want to talk about my own book, Broken Silence, 2018. It was published, and that feels like ages ago, but it's literally only like 15 months ago that we published it, and a month later after publishing it became a bestseller. And that's good. That's all. I'm super happy of it. I'm super proud of it. We're helping people around the world. But in that book I also introduced a model that's called the 5 energies. And I have to tell you something, see, this is how good I stay on topic. I have a very special edition in this book. I wanted to give it away, but it is completely printed, not only upside down, but also, you have to read it from right to left. It's completely a different edition, so I keep that as a very special edition, but I use it today. So anyhow, so in the book it starts on page 62. I introduced a model, and that's called the 5 energies. And it's fine. So if you have a copy, take it out. If you don't have a copy, get one online. And so it's full of commercials today, but most of the proceeds of the book goes to to a non-profit organization. So it's a good thing, right? So, but I introduced a model that's called the 5 energies. Everyone who read the book maybe remember it, but at least you can look it back. And so let me go quickly through those 5 energies and tell you why that's so relevant. So your first energy is your physical energy, right? Just your health and how you are, how you do your exercises. That's when you use that first energy. Your second energy is your mental energy. Not how do you deal with all this, mental stuff that's going on right now. That is actually, driven by that second energy, your mental energy. Your third energy, it's a little bit, not so common to hear about it. It is your creative energy. And why that's important, right? So how passionate you are in life and how passionate you do the things is mostly driven by that third energy. Your fourth energy is your manifestation energy, and it is actually how you literally show up in the world. What do you produce in this world? That is your fourth energy. And then last but not least, it's your divine energy or your sense of being. So do you have a sense that everything, for instance, is interconnected? Yeah, a sense of spirituality is also in that fifth energy. Now you could immediately ask me, Jean, but is not everything just one energy? As a lot of scientists say, everything comes from one energy, and everything in the end is one energy. Energy is literally the only constant that we have in the world. It just changes of form, and it's so true. It's so true. I mean, there is this theory. It's mostly accepted by most scientists in the world. That is that the universe has just one constant energy. It just changes form. And it's just, it's maybe an abstract model, but in the end, I think that is true, that everything is one energy. But it's just from a model point of view, it's a little bit easier to talk about these things. Now, Jean was inspired, to be honest, to write about 5 energies. And you could use that model any time of the day, any day of the year. It doesn't really matter. But maybe because of the circumstances we're in, the shift of these energies might happen even before you know it. So I'm going to go through it a little bit, and it's a topic that I'm, of course, very familiar with because I wrote about it, but I'm trying to give it a little bit of a new slant or a new take so that we can use it actually as in the new normal, right? So if I talk about the physical energy, then you could quickly see if someone is good in his physical energy or hers, right? Or yourself, is if you're truly vibrant. If you wake up, you get out of bed, you feel you have a vibrant energy, you are on to do a lot of things, that typically is a really good sign that your physical energy is really good. Now, we could say, and because we have to work now 24 hours in house, we can only go out so once in a while, maybe to walk around a park or do some groceries. But most of the time we spend the time in a house. It's very likely that your physical energy goes down. You have less sunlight, all those more obvious things. The other thing is we hear of people who are, tend to stay longer in bed, shift the timing that they work maybe a little bit more to the evening, you watch more television. Another sign why your physical energy is going down. And so it has a direct relationship with your health. Now, if that's only happening for 1 or 2 days, and I have those weekends or those few days that I want to do that too. I just want to stay in bed, don't do so much. So then it doesn't affect you so much. As I always say, if you eat once in a while a hamburger, it won't hurt you so much. But if you eat once in a while in a salad, then that doesn't do so much for you either. So you have to do the things pretty constant to have and see an effect of it. And that is also true of the things that you do in your physical energy, right? So, and it's very likely in these days that if you used to go to the gym, you used to go to a dance studio, you used to go run outside, that these things are affected by the things that we are today. So I would definitely stimulate you to look at these definitely more closely, because you might not think it has an effect, but the situation could go on easily for a few weeks, and then the effect on your health and your physical energy in these things could be more impactful than you think. So it's not like a gloomy warning, but it's just what it is, right? So vibrant, do you feel still vibrant and on every day to do things? Another way to feel about your physical energy is whether you feel that you're balanced and unbalanced in that energy. So for me, I notice that I have to pay a little bit more attention to how I eat in these days when I stay home. And to be honest, actually, that's a little bit easier, because my schedule is more regular and I can literally stop at 1 o'clock if I want, unless I have something like the plays or a meeting. But I can have a little bit more regular schedule if it comes to eating, and maybe even my physical energy. So that's kind of a nice thing, right? That's kind of a nice. We didn't realize that so much, but now that I see, wow, if I work every day from home, I can actually construct a little bit more regular schedule, and that helps me staying a little bit more in balance, right? So the moment you have a question about this topic, don't be afraid to immediately type it in, and I'll try to answer that. But physical energy, it's all to do with your nutrition, it's all to do with the exercises that you do, but it's always important, how do you measure whether you have good physical energy or not? And the point is, do you feel vibrant? Do you feel balanced, or do you feel unbalanced in that area? I think that's very clear, very easy to understand, how your physical energy works, right? In my book Broken Silence, I wrote mostly about how your physical energy is affected by a traumatic experience like abuse, right? So you could very well see in some cases that the COVID-19 situation is for some people pretty traumatic. Yeah? Can I have just one little second? It happens, right? This is live. We are live on the place. So I mute you just for 1 second. I'll be right back. Darling, I can really hear that the crackling of what you do. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm right back. It's just a little normal thing. All right, so the second energy is your mental energy. Same thing I wrote in the book, how your mental energy is affected by traumatic experience like abuse. And like I said, we for some people the COVID-19 situation is a traumatic experience, and not necessarily immediately because maybe one of your family members or yourself are affected literally by the virus, but you could be in a work situation where your work has completely changed. For a lot of people, the work has gone down, but I know many people who actually the work go up, right? So if you're a nurse or you're a doctor, you have a lot more work than you had before. But also, if you're in an area where you make supplies, maybe that is necessary for the medical world right now, then your work is also quite a bit up. So it's not only down, and that could be also pretty, stressful or what have you not. So that is if you look at it a little bit more from a how did I call that, from a traumatic experience. Now, what about your mental energy, right? Yeah, the mental energy is you can measure that is how is your inner dialogue today. How do you talk to yourself? Now, a lot of people are more, they are more at home. And so, and sometimes they are really alone at home. So it's more likely that they, start to develop some inner dialogue, and you can measure that easily. So, do you do that more from a negative point of view, or do you do that more from a positive point of view? What kind of words do you use? And that's a good thing to know anyhow, right? So there are some people that kind of curses a lot in their own mind, but they might not say it, but they do that. That's kind of, I consider that as a negative self-talk. Now, don't immediately judge yourself over it. If you have that, just find the reason why you do that. A lot of people might think there is no harm in doing that, but there is absolute a relationship by the words that you use and the words you think in about how your attitude is in general towards certain things. Does that make sense? So there is absolutely, you don't have to believe me, you can look it up. By the way, last week I think I presented you a book about decoding the mind, and it talks a lot about how your language is. So I'm not the only one who's talking about it. So, but that's it. Do you have negative or do you have positive self-talk, right? Are you so measure that. Just do that for a few days. And maybe I'll really talk a little bit more negative than normally to it, or you might have discovered that you always are either in a positive or a negative self-talk. Right? So that is a really good way to see that, and see in the situations that we're in where it goes either one direction. Do you have to put more energy into just have a more positive talk, or do you need to have more or do you notice that it goes automatically a little bit more to the negative side? And it doesn't have to be so. Some people with a certain character, they just find, out that in these days you just find a way, and they don't even know how to do it, to always stay positive. It's great. Yeah, it's a great thing. And then one of the more harder things to wrap your head around, to feel if you're really strong in your mental energy, is whether you can quiet your mind down. So first I was talking about self-talk. That's good. But if the self-talks keep going, even if it's positive, not so good either, right? So you need to be able to also to quiet your mind down. Does that make sense? Whether you do that through mindfulness exercises like meditation, right? It's just one mindfulness exercise you can do. Some people say that's a completely different group, but anyhow, I make it very simple. You have mindfulness. Under mindfulness, you have a couple of exercises. One of them is meditation. And if you can do that relatively easy, you can quiet your mind down. Or if you can focus your mind to a certain topic that you want to focus on, you are pretty good in your mental energy. Now, what other things are in the mental energy? Of course, all kind of mental conditions belong to that mental energy. It's not always everything that you have under your own control, right? So whether you need to have therapy or help for that or medication. I mean, it's a really hard topic, of course, to address in the place in a general talk like this. So I'm giving you more the general insight of that, but it helps a lot. It helps a lot. Very often we go quickly to take something that quiets the mind or calms us down. We don't always have that. And I'm really meaning some simple things, and it could be just drinking more coffee than normal, and it is to get a little bit more energy and also a little bit that more mental power. But that quickly can go to other directions where you think you need some medication. So that's also, I don't know these brands here already, but we used to joke in the Netherlands about Melisana, and I don't want to make any jokes, by the way, anyone who really needs that. But if you feel that you need that, you might want to consult someone with knowledge about it before you just take it yourself. So this situation can create a lot of anxiety and can affect your mental energy. And if you feel you need some extra input, I hope you don't immediately think of medication, but if you do, I do hope that you do that with someone with good knowledge of it. Okay, so a little bit serious topics today, but that's just what it is, right? All right, then your third energy. Anyone knows already what the third energy is? There are a few people online, so if you know it and you're faster than me, you can type it in. The third energy is your creative energy. Yeah, really good. So if we are in an enclosed environment, you're a little bit more in isolation. For creative people who have that as their profession, like painters, writers, stuff like that, isolation is sometimes what they look for to find a way to find an outing for their creative energy. I was planning actually to start to do a lot of writing on my second book. And I don't know when that's come, so don't immediately run to Barnes & Noble and try to buy it, because it might be years away before I publish it, but I'm working it already. So having a lot of quiet time actually helps me to use that creative energy and start to write about it. For some people, actually, it's completely devastating to have creative energy. I work with someone, and this person is now bubbling of creative energy, and she's writing a lot of blog posts and stuff like that. So I can feel there's actually a lot of creative energy coming up. Really good, I would say, right? If someone recognized themselves in there, just smile and send a smiley to me as well. Yes, because I'm talking about you. But it's good. So it's not so immediately saying, oh, we have more quiet time and therefore our creative energy is going down. That is so not true, right? So it could go either way. What I want you to find out which way it's going for you. And why is it important to stay creative? And creative has nothing to do with creating. I mean, it has a lot to do with creating art too, or playing the piano, or dance and all those creative outings. But it's literally about how much imagination you have. And this is definitely something that I noticed from some people that I know really well. They have a really hard time now, and maybe rightfully so. Maybe I'm on the wrong side. I don't know that. I'm just on a side. It's maybe not necessarily right or wrong, but some people are so confronted by what they call the reality of the day that they feel it's very inappropriate to talk about maybe the goals that you have in life and maybe the aspirations that you have. Now, I say, don't pause your aspirations, don't pause your dreams, don't pause your passion at all. Find a way to do it right now. I was working with a client earlier yesterday, and I asked her to do a job of imagination, and she said to me, I have a really hard time to get there now. I have really time to see past the point what it's going on. And I think that's a very real thing. A lot of people have that. And for a lot of people, they need to take that pause. And so I did that too for my life, for big parts of my life. It's good to see a point. But in the end, you also have to be able to look beyond that point, right? And why is that? Is because, trust me or not, but all big things that happened in humanity, all big ordeals, and this one is a big one, but they all came to pass. And that's a hope that I want to preach, because it is so true. That doesn't mean that we should not deal with it how it is today, but they will pass. And that means you can continue, just do it in the right way, continue to think and how you want to lead your life, right? Even in the new normal. So that's what I call, don't pause your dreams, don't pause your goals. You have to adjust anyhow. That's true all the time. Does that make sense? I mean, I often, if you have done some coaching program with me, by the way, I always use this example. I always ask people, hey, if you're in a Boeing 747 on those new big Airbuses, and I'm sorry they don't fly hardly today, but if they fly from Sydney to Dallas, right? How often do you think that the computer, the autopilot is correcting that airplane? And some people think, yeah, a few times. I said, no, it's all the time. All the time when you're in an airplane, either the pilot or the computer has to course correct that, and they know that Sydney didn't go to another place suddenly, and Dallas didn't either. They're exactly in the same spot where they were yesterday. No, it is the variables that you go through when you go from point A to point B that makes you change, or that makes you actually course correct yourself constantly. Now, I hope, and for most people that is true, the end goal for that life doesn't have to change. I mean, I know coronavirus, COVID-19 is just a really big course correction, but that's how we need to take it. Does that make sense? Yeah, you need to, and if you're in a medical field, that's a really big change in your life. But even the people in the medical field, at least that I talk, they know everything comes to pass. We just don't know when. And so there needs to be time in our life just to allow ourselves to think about what is it after. Even if your life is 23 hours consumed by it, then find 15 minutes of that hour left to think about that, right? And I know I know some few doctors, they don't have that time. So, but we are not those doctors. Most of us are not, right? So we can still do that and feel blessed that you can't. Creative energy, super important to keep that going. You will feel it very quickly if you don't. Now then, your manifestation energy, that's kind of an obvious one too. In a normal life, you go to your work. I'm a dance teacher. I produce on the dance floor. I give dance steps. Sometimes dance steps now say, well, really? That's the most important thing to do in your life? A dance step right now? Might have not been important to begin with anyhow for a lot of people, so that hasn't changed a lot. But yeah, the way how I show up in the world today is completely different than the way how I showed up 3 weeks ago. And I don't mean my physical appearance, it's as handsome as it ever was. So that didn't change, right? But what I do in the world has changed, because I cannot do all these dance lessons that I did before. So, and just for a few days or even a few weeks, it might be really okay to pause that, right? When we do on a vacation, when we go on a vacation, we do that on purpose. We pause how we manifest ourselves in the world. But it cannot stop. If you stop that, it will stop forever. Right? If you stop it constantly, we need to find a way to do that. And maybe it's a good really lesson for us, that saying, hey, when I have all these things that I want to bring to the world, how can I do it when these things are changing? Now that's for everyone different. Again, you might be in a profession that you don't even have time to do that, because you're already manifesting in the world as much as you can. If you're a doctor, you're working in one of those industry where you maybe have to produce stuff to help us through the situation, then I make a deep bow for you and I say chapeau, because you guys are very needed. But if you're in a job like me, which was very admired, very fun, very thing to do, and that is just creating dance in the world, it stops for a little bit. Now my creative choreography did not stop, that's still there. I can still do that. But what I put out there to my students, it's not there. I try to keep in contact with them, and that's for everyone different, right? If you're if you're a hairdresser, if you're a dentist, you know, maybe you help people with urgency, but you don't do as many as you did before. So what do you do then, right? And that's where a lot of people get a little bit depressed. So it affects their mental energy. They do less. It affects their physical energy, and they are less creative. But it's exactly that creative energy that can help you to become very creative with what you can do in the world, right? If you are more interested to know how to do that, then just drop me a message. But here's the thing. Are we now going to sit back and wait till the Prime Minister of the Netherlands is talking at the same time that I do and be reactive? Because that's what a lot of people will want you to do. Just sit it out and wait. Yeah, a couple of things you need to sit out and wait, but you can still do more than you think you can, right? And that's where you always need to try to be proactive. Yeah, and that could be negative and positive. I know I'm in Dallas and in Texas. There are people who are actually buying more guns, right? And it's not a political thing here, but you know, yeah, that could be. That's also a proactive thing. They start to defend themselves more, and maybe that's necessary. Like I said, I don't know the answer to that, but I know you can be proactive in a negative way. You can be proactive in a positive way, right? Now, this in the place is my way of doing proactive in a positive way. Whether you perceive that as positive or not, I cannot be the judge of that, but that's one of my ways to do it. Proactive, trying to give people hope and encouragement, and that is my way of manifesting things. I write more. I wrote a course yesterday with videos and stuff like that. It's my way. You need to find your way to do that too, and there are ways that are very close in line what your profession is today. So let that be an encouragement. Write me a message if you don't know how to do that, or just put it right now in the chat so that I can, you know, actually react to it. And if I can ask Irene to see if someone on Facebook is doing that, that would be very helpful. Yeah. So, manifestation energy has always to do with the intent that you have. Hopefully that's always to do some good in the world. And are you then proactive or reactive? And this situation can very much cause that we become way more reactive, which makes us passive. And if we do that long enough, not so very healthy, right? There's one word that I want you to remember if it comes to manifestation energy, and that is action, right? I would write it normally right down big on the screen. Action. Right? So that is your manifestation energy. And those are the four energies. I don't want to say the four most important energies, but some people just don't want to, and that's their right, to talk about the fifth and last energy. Anyone who knows what that fifth energy is, just write it right now. It's your time, you know. You can see that you didn't only bought the book just to support me, which I'm very grateful for, but actually also read it. No one? Maybe someone. Okay, your fifth energy is your divine energy, and that is where you find your purpose and gratitude. It actually brings everything together. So in times of this, it's sometimes really hard to find a place of gratitude. You know, I still have food. Actually, I don't eat hardly any less than I did before, right? So I think I still should be very grateful for that. I know there are enough people right now, and that was already true in the world anyhow, by the way, but there are more now that have a little bit more trouble to eat or to eat healthy. So a little bit hard for them to have gratitude. So we need to work a little bit harder for them. But think about it, that attitude of gratitude that I sometimes talk about. We take a lot of things for granted in life, and I think we have got a real used to use that word in a different term. We had a real good reality check that we take even life so much for granted, and everything around us, that we can go wherever we want to go. And that today is not so true, right? So it's maybe a really good time to understand what gratitude truly means, right? Does that make sense? It is almost for some people survival of the fittest. So just to be sheer alive and have fresh lung in your ears, in your fresh air in your lungs, not the other way around, right? For some people that was already a struggle. I you know, not many, but some of my clients have serious health issues, and they have a lot of gratitude for what they do. And see, watch sometimes, and if I say names and you don't want that, then and I don't do that, so I don't know if this person is okay with mentioning her name, but so I won't do it. But if you listen well, you know exactly who it is. It's one of my bigger heroes in life. And this person used to be a top dancer. I think she still is, by the way, but she had to find a completely different form of dancing because she cannot walk anymore. And everything goes slower for her. Everything in her life has become slower of the condition that she has. She had to find her way back into dancing and dance teaching, and is now one of the, she always was, by the way, she didn't realize it maybe, but she's one of the most awesomest person and I know, one of my personal heroes. And she wrote something that stroked me really hard, and it hit me in my heart. And she said, well, you know, the whole world has to come down a little bit now to my tempo. I paraphrase it a little bit, but I want to say that one more time. The whole world has to come down now a little bit to her tempo. She was used to the tempo, and to see that, I hope you kind of can feel what that means. Is just, I think that is so divine, and there is so much gratitude in that. And just to know that we can always live on this high tempo and this high vibration, and we hardly don't know it. Now that we have to slow down a little bit, maybe there's something really good in it, right? And yes, I know some people, Jean is always this positive talker. I know, that's just me. But it is what it is, you know. Maybe we need to think a little bit more about our purpose. You know, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe someone called us out to do. If you're not in one of those jobs that you have to be 24 hours there in a hospital, you might as well take the time for it, right? That's where your divine energy is. Can you find that now? And it's even harder to find, but at the same time, actually, for me, when I saw these messages, it's actually a little bit easier to find. That in essence makes life worthwhile. And now we start to feel what it is to be truly alive, because it is not so much easy to get as we think. And that's not only the people that are affected by it. By the way, I don't know about you guys, but I know more and more names that I literally know the names of. So that means they are very much and close to my inner circle of people that are infected by this virus. And it's scary. It's scary. It comes very close. Some people are already affected by it. And it makes me always believe more in the things that I believe in. It's not a religious talk today, but it also makes me work harder for the purpose that I believe I have in life. And if you don't have one, it's maybe a good time to think about it, you know, and to that absolutely be more grateful for the people that we have in our life and the lives that we have. So maybe someone would think that it was a little bit of light talk today about the 5 energies and Jean's book, but it's actually not. I think you can use those 5 energies anytime, everywhere, in any circumstances. Relook at them. And I say that not because I wrote about it. I was inspired to write about it, so you could arguably say it's not even from me, which I'm totally cool with, by the way. But think about these 5 energies. Your physical energy, how is it today? How can I maintain it in the situations I am in? Your mental energy, very clearly affected by, for most people, that is true today. How can I maintain that? Same thing, right? And think about these measurements that I give for every energy. You don't have to go to, if you need one, just go to a therapist, but you don't have to go, you can read at least in the beginning a little bit how that works. Your creative energy, it's a lot of people has died away. When people are young, they have a lot of it. When people grow older in their life, they miss out on a lot of creative energy. And I can talk about the consequences of that in another talk, but now is maybe the time to think about these things a little bit more. How do you show up in the world? You cannot show up in the same way in the world as you did before, because your job is different as it is right now. Maybe you need to show up more and you step up the plate, because that's the calling. And again, the heroes out there in the hospital, they have to do that. They don't even question it. That's how they show up in the world. But we don't have that all. We can all admire them. That's great behind the television screen, but do something too. Be proactive, right? You can always do something, always. There's always something to do. And sometimes also taking a step back and be very quiet is also a good thing, right? So find that balance, right? And then last but not least, there's still a lot to be grateful for, actually more than, I realize it more than ever. And I hope you do too.